Who was Beatrice Potter? Chapter 1: A Private World. Helen Beatrice Potter was born on July 28, 1866. She was the first child of Helen and Rupert Potter. Because her mother was also named Helen, Beatrice was called by her middle name. The Potters lived at 2 Bolton Gardens, a big house in a fashionable neighborhood in London. Both of Beatrice's parents came from wealthy families. Although both families had earned their money through hard work, the Potters no longer had to work. They led a very comfortable and carefree life. Like many parents at the time, Rupert and Helen Potter did not change the way they lived because they had a child. Mr. Potter went to his club, and Mrs. Potter visited friends while Beatrice stayed at home with her nanny. One of the rules in the Potter household was that Beatrice was to be seen and not heard, and maybe not even seen that much. When Beatrice was 5 years old, her brother Bertram was born. Beatrice was excited to finally have someone to share her life with. Beatrice and Bertram spent almost all their time in the nursery. It was on the top floor of the Potters' big house. Both children were imaginative and creative. They collected all kinds of creatures that lived in the garden. Nurse Mackenzie was Beatrice's nanny. She told Beatrice stories from Scotland, where she was from. The stories were often about fairies and witches who lived in magical forests. After Bertram was born, Miss Hammond came to work for the Potters. She taught the children school subjects. She also taught them to draw and paint. Beatrice loved her art lessons with Miss Hammond. Cox, the butler, helped sneak animals from the garden up to Beatrice and Bertram's bedroom. Over the years, the third floor collection included frogs, rabbits, lizards, mice, a snake, bats, a duck, snails, and hedgehogs. The animals were kept in cages, but they were allowed out when the children were sketching and drawing them. Helen Potter was a stern mother. As a girl, she had enjoyed drawing, dancing, and needlework. But once she became a wife and mother, she spent her time keeping a tidy and orderly house. She made sure Beatrice and Bertram lived by certain rules. They were always in clean, starched clothes. Their hair was always combed, and their faces and hands were always scrubbed clean. She didn't want Beatrice and Bertram to have friends because she believed that other children carried germs. Her son and daughter might get sick. Rupert Potter was more loving. He also liked to sketch, and he was interested in new art of photography. When he saw that his daughter had a talent for drawing, Rupert Potter encouraged it. He often took her to visit museums and the studios of artists who were friends. Mr. Potter introduced Beatrice to the artist John Everett Millais. She visited his studios often and had a chance to see how an artist worked and lived. When Bertram was old enough, his parents sent him to boarding school. Beatrice was once again on her own in the big house at 2 Bolton Gardens. Like most wealthy girls at the time, Beatrice did not go to school. She was taught by a governess. And she spent a lot of time drawing and painting in the nursery bedroom. The world of nature fascinated Beatrice. She studied drawings of animals, insects, and plants in her father's books. Beatrice copied them as closely as she could. She wanted to make her drawings look real as possible. Beatrice worked hard to get the details just right, whether it was a fuzzy caterpillar, a shiny beetle, or a delicate mushroom. In the summer, the Potters escaped the heat and hustle and bustle of London. At the time, London was the world's largest city. It was always also the capital of the British Empire. There were many beautiful gardens and parks in London, but the city often smelled very bad. There was pollution in the rivers and litter on the streets. Many buildings were covered with soot from factories and coal burning stoves in homes. To get away from this, the Potters rented a house called Dalgis in Scotland. Beatrice looked forward to these summer holidays. She loved spending time in the countryside, unlike life in London. Beatrice and Bertram were given lots of freedom at Dalgis. Beatrice spent many hours exploring the woods and the fields. She studied birds, rabbits, frogs, and squirrels in their natural homes. She wandered through hillsides of purple heather and yellow snapdragons. Beatrice spent hours sketching and painting everything she saw. Beatrice and Bertram were sad when their summer holidays came to an end, and they had to return to London. But they always took some of the countryside with them: caterpillars, minnows, frogs, and insects. They all found homes on the third floor of 2 Bolton Gardens. When she was 15, Beatrice began keeping a diary. With very few friends and Bertram away at school, Beatrice shared her secrets and thoughts with her diary. She wrote very, very small so that the words were almost impossible to read. Beatrice also wrote her diary in a special code, a simple letter 4-letter substitution she had made up. This way, no one would be able to read what she had written. John Everett Millais. John Everett Millais was part of a group of artists called the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, founded in 1848. The group wanted to create images that looked real instead of romantic. The Pre-Raphaelites used bright colors and included lots of detail in their work. One of Millais' most famous painting is called Ophelia. The painting shows the character Ophelia from Shakespeare's play Hamlet. The painting was not well liked when it was first shown, but it is now admired for its beauty, especially the natural landscape surrounding Ophelia.